Hey guys, welcome to the first episode of Mind's Eye Kitchen Mycology series. I just wanted to let everybody know as a precaution that this guide is to be used for gourmet mushroom cultivation only. Cultivation of active mushrooms is illegal, and active spores can be purchased in all states except California, Georgia, and Idaho. So keep that in mind when watching this video. What's going on, guys? Today I'm going to show you how to create your own mushroom spawn jars like this one here. This has recently been shaken so you can see the mycelium growing on the small kernels. So what you're going to need is a pot to boil your water and your popcorn, and then obviously your jars that you're going to grow in. And you're kind of just going to fill up as much popcorn as you need. I'm going to do 6 jars. And remember that these are going to grow, increase in size as they hydrate. So I'm probably going to do just over 5 half-full jars. My dogs are eating the popcorn I'm dropping, so that's not a problem. And then you're gonna boil this for about 45 minutes. This is not mandatory, this is optional, but I like to add some used coffee grinds. Just throw them in there. You just throw the lid on it. After it starts boiling, you turn the heat down a little bit and leave it for 45 minutes. Also, we can go over how to make liquid cultures. You guys can see the, maybe, mycelium floating in there. Basically, you just need, I like to use these 4-ounce jars. Doesn't really matter what brand, but you just take a smaller pot, measure it out, you know, however many jars you want, throw that in there, and then you get, I would say, for every 4 4-ounce jars, 1 tablespoon of honey. You just boil that down, jar it up, and then throw it in the pressure cooker for 90 minutes. And then these are good to go. And then you could just throw a little slice of agar or, you know, another liquid culture that's gonna grow in there, some spores possibly, and you'll get a nice little liquid culture jar. Okay, so now that this water is boiling, we're gonna go ahead and turn down the heat a little bit. Just keep it on a nice simmer. Remember to add enough water. I always boil it for the 45 minutes and then I come over and check it and it's almost out of water. I almost burn my popcorn almost every time. So make sure you put enough water in there and then just leave it there simmering for 45 minutes. You'll be able to know when it's done because you could pull a couple kernels out like this. And you'll start to see them crack. You can even let them cool off, and if they're soft, you pinch them. If they're soft and cracking, they're good to go. They're good to strain out and then jar up, and we'll show you that in 45 minutes. All right, now that it's been about 45 minutes, I'm gonna go ahead and turn the stove off and take this off the burner. As you can see, a lot of the water is boiled away. That's why I say you gotta make sure you add a lot of water. If you don't know whether or not these are done, if you can't tell if they're cracked or you don't know if they're soft or not, another good way to find out is cool it down so you don't burn your finger. And then you can kind of just take one kernel and bite into it. And if you can bite through and just bite a piece off, they're good to go. So next step is going to be to take your pan over to a strainer, strain the water out. And then you're gonna wanna leave it straining to make sure you get all the water out. So you're gonna let that sit for between about 30 minutes, an hour, make sure all the water is out of there. Otherwise, you're gonna have water in your jars. You could possibly get wet rot. It's just a breeding ground for contamination. So you wanna let this strain. So I'll come back in about 20, 30 minutes and we'll finish the rest. All right, so now we're gonna be filling up our spawn jars. So what you need to do, your mason jars are gonna come with that lid on top. You just turn it upside down. So the lid's gonna be like that on the jar, pretty much like this. Some people like to wrap it in tinfoil. As you can see with this spawn jar, that's what I've done. I kind of stopped doing this just because it's kind of just an extra step. I feel like you can do it if you want, but next step is gonna be fill up your spawn jars. Up to this point, you don't need to really be too sterile. You just don't want to get any shit inside of your spawn. So I'm just gonna use a little spoon I got here and fill these up, and then we're gonna pressure cook it. I'm gonna cut this part out so I don't waste y'all's time. All right, so as you guys can see, that 5 half full mason jars of the raw popcorn turned into 6 full jars, just like I wanted it to. So the next step is me sterilizing our spawn with a pressure cooker. This probably is gonna take you a few times if you're new at it. I probably contaminated 5 or 6 batches before I figured out how to actually work my pressure cooker and get it right. So we're just gonna throw it in there. You don't have to let the water boil or anything, but I would say, I'll show you guys. Add a few inches of water in there just so you don't run out in your 90 minutes of pressure cooking. So when you throw them in there, you just wanna give your lids a half turn open and then throw them in there. I'm gonna do 3 at a time. And then I'm also going to sterilize my liquid culture jars as well. And it doesn't have to look nice in there. You can just throw it in there so it fits. And then you're basically just gonna throw your lid on. Have it on high heat until that water's boiling. Once it's boiling, you're gonna start hearing that little whistle of your pressure cooker. And then after 90 minutes, after it starts whistling, you're gonna turn it down a little bit to about medium heat. And then after it's whistling for 90 minutes, you're gonna go ahead and take it off of there and let them cool. And then we'll be ready for inoculation. So I'll see you guys after this sterilization time is up. So this is what you're aiming for with your pressure cooker. This is letting you know that, hey, it's up to pressure. You're gonna want this at 15 PSI for 90 minutes. It's gonna be kind of annoying to listen to this for an hour and a half, but you kind of got to get used to it. So we'll come back in 90 minutes and I'll show you guys what the next step is. All right, so now that we let all the pressure out, you can take the lid off. You gotta be careful because this is gonna be really hot. So now these jars are ready to get pulled out, and then you just let them cool. Be very careful. Use a rag when you do this because these are going to be extremely hot. Okay, now that our jars and our liquid culture jars have cooled, we're gonna go ahead and inoculate. There's a couple different methods here. You could use agar. As you can see, I have a couple different cultures here that are ready. You could use a spore syringe, which is probably what most of you are gonna be using. Good place to get some spores is you can check out the verified vendors list on the Spore Traders Reddit, or if you have this established, you can use a liquid culture as well. Today I'm going to be using some of my established cultures, so I'm going to show you guys how this is going to work. Alright, so now we're ready to inoculate our jars. For this, you're going to either want to invest in a flow hood or a steel air box. Something like this is going to work fine. This is just a plastic bin with some armholes cut in it. Works just fine. So when you get in here, you're going to want to wipe everything down, sterilize everything. Some people wear gloves, but that's not my thing. I just use hand sanitizer and it's good to go. So if you're using agar, you're gonna wanna get an X-Acto knife or your spore syringe, something like that, something that is going to be easy to use in here. Some people flame sterilize. I don't flame sterilize because that's just extra work. So you're just gonna open up your jar a little bit, be right there, and get your culture, spore syringe, liquid culture, whatever you're gonna put inside of your jar. You're gonna wanna move as still as possible here. And then there kind of is a little bit of a science to this. I'll make a video on this at some point, sectoring, but for now, you can kind of just cut any piece off. Get it on your X-Acto like this. Put my lid back on that. Okay, so after you pull this out of your still air box and pop this sumbitch open, because it was suction cupped shut because of the pressure cooker, that's fine. You're just going to throw your agar in like that, put the lid on, screw it up, make sure you label this. Okay, you're going to want to label these because you want to know what the fuck is in it. Don't forget to do that right after you inoculate it. You're gonna forget, you're gonna mix them up, and you're not gonna know what the fuck is in each jar. So the next step is inoculating these jars we have in here, which kind of takes forever. So I'm gonna show you guys how to do that real quick. Okay, so what I like to do is get a lot of the grain on one side so that when you throw your agar in there, it's gonna land like that, and then you can kind of just bury it under there, somewhere in the middle towards the top. So kind of the same deal as the liquid culture. You wanna go ahead and wipe off your X-Acto because you put it all over the dirty fucking table. And then just gonna get some agar. Again, take a little slice. I like to add, my dogs are still running around. I like to add a couple slices so that it's got agar growing from a couple different points. You guys could do it however you want. I want to emphasize that this is all an experiment. There's not an exact science to this. So if you don't do something exactly how I do it, don't feel like you need to. If you want to modify some things, don't feel like you're not allowed to or you're not supposed to. If you want to add a step, add some shit to your jars and do something I don't, that's perfectly fine. This one doesn't. Okay, there we go. So after you throw a couple pieces in there like that, you just want to give it a little, not a huge shake, but just get it a little bit buried in there. And then once again, close it up, give it that half turn, and then set it aside for a few weeks. Once it's about 30% colonized, shake it up, break it. That's going to distribute the growth points of the mycelium so that it's going to colonize the entire jar faster. Once again, some people do this differently. Some people shake it, after they just see a little bit of growth. Some people don't shake it at all. Whatever works for you, whatever you want to do. This is just a rough field guide of how to do this.
Okay, so I forgot to add the spore syringe part, mainly because I don't use spore syringes anymore. But if you are using a spore syringe, at this point, you would want to put anywhere between 0.5 cc's and 1 cc into your jar, and then just close it back up.
Alright guys, so that's basically everything summed up into one video. If my dog stops walking on the fucking floor, thank you. No? Once again, this is just simple home mycology. Don't stress it way too much. Don't stress the sterility of everything. There's gonna be people out there telling you, you have to wear gloves, you have to wipe every single thing down, all the jars down, this and that. But you guys saw the extent of what I did, and I don't get contamination at all, hardly. So if you guys want more of these videos, follow Mine's on Mycology, and I'll hook you guys up with agar videos, what I figured out works in my kitchen, and all the inside shit.
All right, thank you guys for watching. If you guys have any questions or comments, go ahead and leave them in the comments section. And subscribe to my YouTube if you guys want to see more videos like this. I think the next video is going to be making and pouring agar in your kitchen.